Everybody's got a price.
In today's video, I'm going to be talking about an issue that is plaguing the animal rights movement and is, I feel, actively hampering our potential to change the world. And that is the issue of money shaming. Recently, there has been a well-publicised drama between the directors of AV and Joey Carbstrong, which resulted in Joey posting a statement that detailed AV's finances. And the response from vegans to seeing these sums of money was, well, disappointing. Now, before we proceed, I have to make it clear that I have absolutely zero loyalties to AV anymore since I'm no longer with the organisation, and I don't even align with them anymore after what happened to me and my colleague. So I don't want anyone to think that this is some kind of defence of AV or how it's run. Rather, it's a defence of what I believe to be an extremely important part of our movement, the presence of money. I'd also like to make clear that this video has nothing to do with Joey Carbstrong and isn't an attack on him. Rather, I'm responding to the reaction that his statement provoked. So in this statement Joey posted that responded to Paul Nassar's claims against him, he details that AV was receiving around $1.5 million a year via a wealthy donor. Within hours, this was jumped on by vegans, mostly intersectionals, foaming at the mouth over this figure and demanding answers as to why any group within the animal rights movement should get this much. As an example, this Instagram profile run by an intersectional produced this post which urged the user to swipe right to see how much money Anonymous for the Voiceless receive in donations from one very rich individual donor. Now, this guy is a bit of a clout chaser who wants to be the next big white saviour in the animal rights movement, so just like the other profile in my last video, I'm not going to give him the satisfaction of naming him, but just take a look at this. So you swipe right on the post and then he does this big reveal of how much money AV is getting and how he's disgusted by the amount of $1.5 million per year, which included cash injections of $100,000 every 3 weeks, tagging in countless others, predominantly intersectional, in the comments who equally express their contempt at this fee. And you know what? I'd like to express my contempt at this fee too. It's not enough. We're up against the most powerful industry on the planet, and you think a measly $1.5 million a year is too much? In fact, what even is too much when a group is fighting for the cause we believe in? Do we not want animal rights organisations to be as powerful and effective as possible in this uphill struggle to end the animal holocaust? The only time you should ever express disgust at an organisation's income in the animal rights movement is that it's not getting enough. I want billionaires, not just millionaires, to go vegan. Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Zuckerberg, and for them to absolutely pump their money into the animal liberation movement so that Big Ag are quaking in their boots. I want sanctuaries never having to worry about closing their doors again, and on top of that, I want activists getting out of the rat race, out of their shitty jobs working for some animal enslaving corporation and living comfortably on industry standard rates or higher, working for animal rights orgs or doing solo activism, financially secure, never having to worry about feeding their family or missing rent. I want cinema ads, billboards, the lot. I mean, who in their right mind would not want that? And just to put things into perspective, let's say that billionaires went vegan and were to pump, say, $2 billion a week into animal rights causes. That actually only represents just one measly dollar per land animal alone murdered by Big Ag in that timescale.
The reality is far more disturbing.
We torture and kill 2 billion sentient, loving animals every week. 2 billion.
I mean, is that too much to ask? Just a $1 a week donation per victim of the animal holocaust? I genuinely hope we get there one day. So anyway, the user writes beneath the post that this is such a disgrace, seeing as, sanctuaries and direct action groups and so on don't make anywhere near this. But here's the thing. This is the crabs in a bucket mentality that just holds us down as a movement. For anyone who isn't aware of the crabs in a bucket expression, it's the idea that there's this bucket full of crabs trying to climb to the top, and while each crab has the ability to climb to the top and indeed let all the others climb to the top, What they instead spend their time doing is just clambering all over each other and keeping each other down. It's essentially a way of saying, if I can't have it, then neither can you. If we want to be successful as a movement, what we should be saying instead to AV receiving 1.5 million per year, while sanctuaries and direct action groups don't, is, wow, that's awesome that AV got that. Now let's try and get sanctuaries and direct action groups that as well. Let's all climb to the top of this bucket together. And for those of you who think it sounds crazy that I would ever say 1.5 million going into an animal rights group organisation per year is not enough, my point is essentially proved. Now that the donor who is putting that money into AV is fucked off, AV is having to fire staff, scrap its upcoming campaigns and compromise its own effectiveness in order to just get by. These things that money shamers see as huge sums of money are peanuts in the world we live in. In fact, a single branch of McDonald's makes around $1.5 million in about half a year. Not McDonald's as a whole, just a single outlet, selling the body parts of murdered animals. Yet it's somehow blasphemy if an entire organisation fighting for animal liberation isn't allowed to make that in a whole year. I mean, I even personally know people who earn that much in about a year or two. Yet it's seen as outlandish when an entire organisation employing around 30 people gets this in a year. So at the time Joey posted this statement revealing AV's income, experienced activist and critic of the modern day animal rights movement Roger Yates made a video entitled Our Sad Counter-Revolutionary Money Movement that, in my opinion, just epitomises this counterproductive crabs in a bucket mentality that I'm talking about. Now, this is not a call out of Roger or anything, but Roger does repeatedly say in this vid, which I'll link below, help me out here and can anybody answer this and so on. So I thought I would use this video as an opportunity to answer Roger's questions because in my mind they absolutely do need answering and his opinion on this needs critiquing. So let's look at what Roger says here about this movement that is in his mind being made worse, not better, by what he deems to be large sums of money.
Hey, Earthlings, so help me out. What's all this about money in the movement at the moment? I've recently seen this shocking AV video. It's to do with Carbstrong and Save and the mysterious donor. And I don't quite understand this. I mean, I understand that in social movements as a general matter, some people see a cause when they see a problem and other people see a career. But now it seems that some people see a means to become rich and famous. Now you've got this new form of careerism in the movement, this new celebrity veganism malarkey. And it really seems a bit weird to me, but also on a movement level it's counter-revolutionary. It disempowers the grassroots in the name of the grassroots. Anonymous for the Voiceless is not a grassroots group. It's got a power structure, it's got a hierarchy, it's got wages, but why? I mean, why do animal activists need Paul Bashir to be paid lots and lots to show them how to stand in a cube on a street with some laptops?
Okay, so first of all, he's massively trivialising and traducing here what it is to be the director of a non-profit organisation that employs staff, pays wages, runs campaigns, and has all this insane amount of work going on behind the scenes. Meetings, strategies, campaigns, advertising, legal stuff, hiring processes, and so on. It's the equivalent of someone going, so-and-so is a construction company director. Why does someone need to be paid loads of money to just point at a hole in the ground and go, here, plonk a few bricks down there, job's a good un. You own an airline? Fuck, why are you paid so much to just point it at the sky and go, yeah, you fly over to this country, you fly over to that one, Bob's your uncle. I just can't stand it when people downplay extremely time-consuming, life-consuming careers like Paul's is. You'll notice he doesn't even mention a soul once in the video, by the way. And make it out to be this simplistic thing that takes no work, no skill, no dedication, and no know-how. Anyway.
Why do you need to have a load of money flying around in these groups? I mean, why, Tell me.
Because shit is expensive. It costs money, lots and lots of money, to run an organisation, to employ staff, to have an IT team, a social media team, a marketing team, an HR team, a graphic design team, to run campaigns, insurance costs, to build an app, and God knows what else organisations such as AV use to run and be effective.
And the ALF didn't have a donor and somebody telling everybody what to do.
Firstly, the ALF isn't actually an organisation. It can't have a donor as such because it has no centralisation or structure. The ALF is a movement. Anyone can represent the ALF so long as they perform an action on behalf of the ALF. For example, break into a vivisection lab, liberate some animals and spray paint ALF on the wall. This isn't how an organisation works. Organisations need money and staff to operate. How can people work 5 days a week for Sainsbury's while also working 5 or 6 days a week for PETA or AV or Mercy for Animals? It's not possible. Second, if ALF doesn't have a donor, that's not something to necessarily be celebrated. It means that in the majority of cases, those who perform actions for the ALF work a shitty job stacking the corpses of animals on the shelves at a supermarket or serving the secretions of murdered animals at a coffee shop 5 or 6 days a week. If ALF centralised and had a donor who could pay people full time to perform actions 5 days a week instead of working at Starbucks, that would be fucking epic. However, I understand that that's not what the ALF is about, and it was always meant to operate the way it currently does, with no centralisation, and I respect that.
You know, the Hunt Saboteurs don't have donors.
And you're okay with that? Do you not want the Hunt Sabs to have a rich donor? I certainly do. People are always saying the Hunt Sabs need donations. Again, why on earth wouldn't you want them to have a donor? Once more, this is just the crabs in a bucket mentality of, well, if the Sabs don't have it, then neither can your organisation.
It irks me a lot, really. I mean, I know this group in Dublin called VEGO, Vegan Education on the Go, and it's run by someone who runs an animal sanctuary, Declan Bowens. Now, he's been doing a 5-hour event on Dublin Street, and it's probably the biggest, I mean, get this is probably physically the biggest grassroots event in the world, right? He's been doing that now for coming up 6.5 years. Every week. I think he's missed about 5 weeks. Obviously the COVID thing has knocked it on the head at the moment. But, you know, there's hardly any money involved here. He doesn't get paid. You know, he doesn't need a donor. He needs a van, which he happens to have, and also a printer. Got himself an A3 printer, so he's got loads and loads of posters, which he makes himself, you know, because he doesn't have the money. You know, this is where the money is needed. I mean, VEGO would be better with more money.
Yes, they would. Every activist group would be better with more money. And I hope this Declan lad manages to get out of the rat race, stop working for whichever animal abusing corporation he works for in between his activism, and dedicate to this full time.
But they don't need, you know, vast amount of riches. So why does Paul Bashir need that?
Because Paul Bashir is the director of a large animal rights organisation that employs staff. So rather than have the mentality of, Declan can't have that, so neither can Paul, why not just say, great that Paul is co-founder of an organisation and works full-time in animal rights. I hope this can happen to Declan as well.
That money needs to be spread around within the grassroots of the movement for them to buy stuff to campaign with, not to pay wages.
No, additional money needs to go into the movement to help those groups to buy stuff. Again, unless you have this crabs in a bucket mentality, why would you even want to take money away from an animal rights organisation and away from jobs in animal rights, thus forcing people back into their non-vegan jobs?
And if you want people who are, you know, working full-time, you know, for the other animals, fair enough. But I mean, minimum wages we're talking about here, maximum hours, minimum wages. Not least because the richer they get, the more taxes they're giving to the vivisections.
Maximum hours, minimum wages. I can't believe he even just said that. I mean, you wouldn't even wish that on a non-vegan, Roger. So why on earth would you ever wish that on a vegan? Working in animal rights. What on earth is going on here? Maximum hours, minimum wages. I mean, it sounds like something a sweatshop owner would say. Regarding his point about taxes, if you don't have competitive salaries and vegans can't take these jobs in animal rights because they pay shit, then guess what? They're just going to stay in their shitty but higher paying non-vegan job they work in at the moment that actually values their time, rather than paying minimum wages. So all you're doing here by keeping the wages as low as possible in the AR movement is forcing people to stay in their shitty pro-animal abuse, pro-vivisection job, like working at a chemist or in a pharmacy or in a supermarket or whatever. Also, maybe if we could get vegans into positions of power, rather than just be stuck at a grassroots level with no major organisations representing us, we could make significant system change. Subsidies suck, I get it, but the pros far outweigh the cons when it comes to vegans living comfortably, working in animal rights, making a decent living, dedicating their full time to the cause without suffering mental health problems and poverty as a result of working their arse off every week for peanuts.
This movement sometimes doesn't make any sense.
I agree, but for different reasons than you do. I honestly cannot wrap my head around why anyone would not want large sums of money in the animal rights movement unless they were a dairy farmer or a pork supplier or a big ag lobbyist. Why are we tearing each other down for being financially successful when we should be building each other up?
It's counter-revolutionary, this movement at the moment. It's ridiculous.
What's counter-revolutionary is wanting the vegan revolution to remain as small, poor and ineffective as possible in a capitalist world that is dominated by money and where the industry we're up against is wiping their asses with dollar bills and laughing at our misfortune. One thing that I find so bizarre about this whole mentality in the movement of not wanting people to have careers in animal rights is that the people advocating this tend to be socialists, communists or anarchists. Don't they want people to be out of the bullshit corporate world for once? Would they not rather they worked in a justice movement rather than for a big capitalist conglomerate like Apple, Samsung, Nike or Nestle? It just makes no sense to me. So anyway, what with all this furore generated over an activist group receiving $1.5 million a year, which included payments of $100,000 every 3 weeks.
$100,000 every 3 weeks.
I'm sure intersectionals were absolutely sickened to their core to hear that another activist group, Black Lives Matter, amassed millions upon millions upon millions of dollars this year, including $5 million from one petition alone. Right? Right? So let's see how intersectionals, who are so against the idea of large amounts of money being given to justice groups, responded to this clearly obscene amount of money being pumped into Black Lives Matter this year. And they didn't condemn it at all. And on top of this, many of them even have links on their profile to donate additional money into BLM on top of the millions they're already raking in. If you have a problem with animal rights groups receiving quote-unquote large sums of money, but say absolutely nothing or even condone it when pro-speciesist groups rake it in, you're engaging in speciesism. What is this if not human supremacism? Leave the condemning of money in the animal rights movement to the dairy farmers, the shills and the suits at Big Beef. This is the movement I dream of. I dream of a movement where no activist ever has to work in their soul-destroying carnist job ever again. I dream of a movement where sanctuaries, organisations and solo activists get by comfortably and mental well-being is high. I dream of a movement where if someone else is financially successful, we praise it and tell them, I'm so happy for you. How can my organisation earn that too? I dream of a movement where the director of Tyson Foods wakes up in the morning and receives a phone call saying, shit, we're fucked. The Earthlings Experience has got the halftime commercial slot at the Super Bowl, the most expensive advertising slot in the world. You know, it's apparently an advert that makes people question their decision to eat animals. Fuck, I can't believe they beat us to it. I dream of a movement where the dairy industry quakes in its boots as it finds out Bill Gates has invested in AV or animal equality and they're about to change the world. I dream of a movement that is as large, diverse, happy, and financially comfortable as possible. Look, I get that people have a problem with the concept of money. It's a weird system when you think about it. We live in a world where arbitrary pieces of paper that represent lumps of metal in the ground dictate how successful or unsuccessful we're going to be, and what the quality of our life is. But guess what? That's the system we live in, and it's not changing anytime soon. So we need to use this to our advantage. Support money in the animal rights movement. End money shaming. The animals are counting on us to be bigger than their oppressors. And unfortunately, without money, we just can't do that. Thanks for watching, everyone. Please like and share this very important video, and please hit the subscribe button.